Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing great and ready for some real talk about what's new in Arma Reforger because the latest experimental update just landed. And oh man, there's a lot to unpack here. This isn't just a minor patch with a few fixes here and there. It's one of those updates that actually shifts how the game feels, from small mechanical details to full on gameplay experiences. So let's break it down. Talk through everything that's been added, changed, and tweaked, and also what that means for you spending time in Reforger lately or if you're just curious about what's next for the Arma universe. First off, the new experimental update, version 1.6.0.48, came out on October 22nd, 2025, and it's packed with a mix of polish, balance, and some pretty deep gameplay reworks. What stands out immediately is how much focus there is on improving the core systems, things like projectile behavior, vehicle interactions, and environmental effects. If you've been around Reforger for a while, you know that this game has always been a testing ground for Infusion engine improvements. But lately, the devs are clearly refining everything to feel more solid, more immersive, and less janky. One of the biggest gameplay updates that's actually easy to feel once you hop in is the new grenade flight and collision system. You know how grenades used to behave? Sometimes they'd bounce weirdly, sometimes they'd detonate early, and occasionally they'd clip through stuff they shouldn't. That's been overhauled. Now they feel a lot more physical, a lot more believable. When you throw one, you can actually track its arc better, and it reacts more naturally when it hits a wall, the ground, or even objects in motion. The devs also fixed a long-standing issue with grenades exploding too early when near obstacles, which was one of those little frustrations that made firefights unpredictable for the wrong reasons. So yeah, now when you lob a grenade into a room, it behaves how you'd expect. It bounces, rolls, and detonates properly. Another small but impactful addition is the new visualization for poison damage. This might not sound huge, but if you've ever been caught in toxic gas or exposed to chemical hazards, you'll appreciate how much better it feels to actually see that damage represented in a more visceral way. Before, it could feel kind of unclear, like, am I dying from poison right now or just taking random environmental damage? That's been cleaned up so players have clearer feedback in those moments. Now, if you're into vehicles, and let's be honest, who isn't in Arma, Kolgiev has received some love in this update. The devs added more vehicle spawns, which means more ways to move around and more options for tactical play. It's part of a broader effort to make the map feel more dynamic and alive. And with that came a bunch of fixes and improvements for vehicles themselves. For example, RPG 7 wind age adjustments are now properly handled, meaning your shots will feel more consistent at range. There's also been some fine-tuning with the Lab 25 sights and ADS, and a fix for mortar camera offset issues that were making indirect fire a bit annoying to control. On top of that, several small things that used to break immersion, like missing gloves on characters or certain ammunition issues, got patched up too. Another subtle but interesting change is that character wobble support has been removed. You might not immediately notice this unless you've been playing for a while, but the old wobble effect when standing or moving sometimes made aiming feel off or inconsistent. With it gone, the player movement and aiming feel tighter, smoother, and more predictable. It's another one of those quiet tweaks that makes the whole gameplay loop just feel cleaner. Let's talk deployables for a second. This is a nice one. The max tilt for deployable turrets and sandbags has been increased from 15 degrees to 25 degrees. That might not sound like a big deal on paper, but in practice, it's a game changer for anyone who's tried setting up defenses on uneven ground. You know how frustrating it was when you found a good vantage point but couldn't deploy because the terrain was slightly angled? Yeah, that frustration is gone now. You can finally build up a proper firing position in places that used to be off limits. That one small number change has a surprisingly big impact on how fluid base building and defensive play can feel. And while we're on systems, the projectile simulation now runs at a fixed 30 FPS. This was a smart move because before, projectile behavior could vary depending on performance or frame rate, leading to inconsistencies. By fixing it at a stable simulation rate, you get more predictable physics, which is crucial for a game that prides itself on realism and precision. Combat Ops on Kolgiev also got a major overhaul. The devs added a QRF system, Quick Reaction Force, which basically means that enemy responses to your actions are more dynamic now. If you hit an objective too hard or too fast, you might trigger reinforcements or a more coordinated counterattack. It makes missions feel less scripted and more like you're actually part of a living battlefield that reacts to you. There are also more mission tasks, more vehicles available in the ops, and new tweaks to the briefing flow and exfiltration timers. The pacing feels better, less waiting around, more meaningful objectives, and overall it's a smoother and more immersive experience. And then there's a new gameplay feature that people have been asking for, group rally points. This is one of those quality of life additions that really helps squad-based play. Basically, it allows your group to set a rally point to spawn on, which adds a bit of tactical flexibility and makes coordinating as a team much easier. No more running for ages from HQ just to regroup. Now you can keep the action going and stay in sync with your squad. HQC, the HQ Commander system, also got some attention with improved hints and mission logic. Commanders now get clearer feedback on what they're doing, and some older bugs with the interface and mission flow have been ironed out. It's still not perfect, but it's moving in the right direction, and anyone who's spent time commanding knows how important those small interface cues can be in keeping control of the operation. Now let's shift over to performance and stability, because that's always one of the big questions with every update. The devs fixed several crashes related to climbing, grenades, doors, and the damage system. They also tackled memory leaks that were slowly eating up performance during long play sessions. Xbox Series S players in particular should notice fewer crashes now, which is huge considering how demanding Reforger can be on console hardware. It's clear the team is making an effort to optimize stability across all platforms, not just PC. Audio-wise, this update made some really nice improvements too. USSR radios have replaced the old Everon variants, which gives faction authenticity a big boost. They also added a new radio filter for HQ battalion transmissions, so the sound feels more distinct and realistic. And then there's tuning to music and effects, fixing some of the sound layering problems that could happen during intense firefights. It's subtle, but makes the game world feel richer and more immersive. Speaking of immersion, helicopters just got easier to control, especially for players who use regular collective assistance. The flight model hasn't changed dramatically, but the assistance now feels smoother, which helps new players get comfortable with flying without stripping away the realism that veterans appreciate. And for anyone using older key bindings, they've remapped the change shell charge action to the Y key, keeping things a bit more intuitive. On the UI side, a bunch of small but meaningful improvements have been made. The Don't Show Again option for hints is a welcome touch, especially for players who've gone through the tutorials multiple times. There's also a dedicated keybind now to toggle that on and off, which is super handy. Icons and layout elements across the interface have been adjusted to feel more consistent and readable, which is one of those polish layers that makes a big difference over time. Let's not forget AI behavior, because that's an area that Reforger's been steadily improving since launch. Pathfinding and vehicle driver decisions have been tweaked again, making AI less likely to get stuck or do those random panic turns when under fire. They also improved how AI soldiers disembark from vehicles, so you'll see fewer awkward pileups or soldiers getting stuck trying to exit. Combined with the new QRF system, AI battles feel more coordinated and believable than ever before. Visually, the rendering pipeline saw some shadow tweaks too. The team fixed a shadow flickering issue that could happen during certain lighting transitions, and it really helps clean up the look of the game during dusk and dawn scenes. It's not a massive graphical overhaul, but it's another step toward making Infusion more stable and reliable across different lighting conditions. Now for the modders, this patch brought a few new toys to the toolbox. There's a new debug color legend for weapon blast damage, which helps with testing and balancing custom weapons. They also introduced a new CLI parameter called Dash World Systems Config, giving modders more flexibility in defining world-level systems. And then there's the addition of CR Damage Suffering System, a new system that modders can build on to control how damage is applied and visualized in their own scenarios or mods. On top of that, auto-scroll and scroll component systems have been unified, which helps streamline interface work for anyone creating custom menus or tools. The editor also got some behind-the-scenes optimizations, making it a bit snappier and more reliable. What's cool about this update is that even though it's technically experimental, it feels like a proper refinement pass on almost every aspect of the game. You can tell the devs are locking in features and systems that will carry forward into the next big milestones for Arma. The combination of technical fixes, improved feedback systems, and enhanced gameplay mechanics makes this build feel more cohesive and mature. If you're planning to jump in right now, there are a few things you should definitely test out. Try throwing grenades in different situations, inside buildings, over walls, near vehicles, and feel how much more natural they behave. Play Combat Ops on Kolgayev and see how the new QRF system changes how the mission unfolds. If you're more of a pilot, take a helicopter up with the new flight assist and notice how much smoother it feels to control. And if you're a base building or defense-focused player, go ahead and set up some turrets or sandbags on uneven ground. You'll instantly appreciate that extra 10 degrees of freedom.